I'm going to talk to you tonight about belief, specifically the problem of religious belief. Our world has been balkanized into separate moral communities. We have Christians against Muslims, against Jews. The majority of people on this planet at the moment organize their lives around a founding proposition that God wrote one of their books. We have many of these books on hand. They make genuinely incompatible claims about the nature of this universe, about the disposition of certain real estate in the Middle East. We have the marriage of quite literally first century or earlier beliefs, literally Iron Age philosophy, with 21st century destructive technology. This on its face should seem untenable to us. I know I'm going to offend some people in this room. Let me assure you that's not the point. I'm not being deliberately provocative. I am simply worried. 90% of our neighbors, 90% of Americans believe in a personal God. 40% of scientists believe in a personal God, literally a God who can hear our prayers. Well, what is a belief? Let's get into this for a minute. Beliefs are clearly representations of the world, but they are more than that. They are the representations of the world that we think actually represent the world. This is the distinction between a belief and a hope, say. When you hope that something is true, you are representing the world. You are representing a possible state of the world. When you believe that something is true, you are actually making your best effort to map reality with your thoughts. And this is why beliefs pull the reins of our emotions and our behavior so closely. This is why belief is really part of the higher cognitive machinery we have to generate expectations about the world, expectations about how our behavior is going to change our moment-to-moment experience. If this sounds abstract to you, just imagine the change that it would occur in you if the fire marshal came in at this moment and said this building is about to collapse. I mean, these are mere words. This is a mere sentence. And yet, should you give it credence, should you believe it to be true, it would completely transform your physiology, your neurology, your behavior rather quickly. And so too with any other proposition that has significant representational content. Believing a proposition to be true is what opens us to the representational content of any what otherwise would be a string of words. So what do our neighbors believe? Well, 22% of Americans claim to be certain, literally certain, that Jesus is going to come down out of the clouds sometime in the next 50 years. Another 22% think he probably will sometime in the next 50 years. That's 44% of the electorate. Now, of course, this belief does not exist in isolation. It's not an accident that 44% of Americans also believe that the creator of the universe literally promised the land of Israel to the Jews. This is in his capacity as an omniscient real estate broker. And these beliefs are knit together with a myriad of other beliefs, infatuations with the end of history, with apocalyptic prophecy. And these beliefs have geopolitical consequences. This is not just what people believe on Sundays. It's actually not an exaggeration to say that something like half of us, something like 44% of the American population, if they turned on their television sets and saw that a mushroom cloud had replaced New York City, they would see a silver lining in this cloud because it would be a portent to them. It would presage that the best thing that is ever going to happen is about to happen, the return of Christ. Or take another belief, that we've all been pummeled with this debate about intelligent design, the idea that the machinery of the living cell is so complicated that it could not possibly have been generated through naturalistic processes. This should be genuinely troubling to us. This really is eroding the prestige of science in our culture. It is, your children could well be taught this pseudoscience in school, in biology class, one of these days. But it's also important to recognize that it's a bit of a red herring, because 44%, actually in the last Gallup poll it was up to 53%, something like half of us are creationists. Intelligent design is not what they're fancying. They believe that we were created from mud with divine breath sometime in the last 6,000 years. You know, Adam and Eve standing in a garden with a talking snake and a hankering for apples. But this is literally the vision of the creation of our species. So one way to summarize what I've said to you is that I'm really arguing that every one of us is a scientist, in that every one of us is making a claim about the way the world is. Every one of us wants to understand reality. None of us want to be confused. None of us want to be mistaken about the situation we're in. But there are areas of intellectual honesty in our culture where science is good, and there are areas where we have a fundamental double standard, where certainty has been unlinked from evidence. But just as everyone is a scientist, everyone is also a mystic, in the sense that every one of us has been born into a circumstance where we are helplessly seeking happiness in a condition where experience is always changing. What you get, you lose. And we are all interested, whether we have time to think about it or not, we are all interested in finding just how happy, how much well-being can be enjoyed in this circumstance, and in designing a civilization that can promote it. So I'm just asking you to imagine what it would be like to have a society where our conversation about human well-being could proceed totally unconstrained by dogma, where really we could bring the full measure of our creativity to bear on questions of human happiness. And my argument is that to get there, to get from here to there, the end game for civilization is not mere tolerance of other people's irrationality. It is not political correctness. It is reason. Thank you very much.